Welcome and thank you all to the nearly 250 volunteers who came this morning. All of you made this happen. It actually happened in 45 minutes. We spent 8 hours putting the outline up yesterday, but we had so many volunteers, it was simply amazing. So thank you all for making that happen. This is the 19th Pink Triangle. We're all wearing Pink Triangle t-shirts here today out of camaraderie for those who were forced to wear pink triangles in the concentration camps. We wear ours by choice, but of course they had no choice during the Holocaust. The Pink Triangle is one of history's reminders of hate and intolerance, and part of appreciating and understanding where we are for Pride Weekend 2014 is understanding where we've been. The Pink Triangle is here to help educate others about the hatred of the past to make sure that it never happens again. The message of this Pink Triangle is what can happen when hatred and bigotry become law, as it did in the 1930s and 40s. This past year has been incredible for LGBT rights in this country. However, it's been a particularly horrible year in other parts of the world. Unfortunately, there are 77 countries where homosexuality is illegal. There are 38 nations in Africa which criminalize homosexuality. In 4 of those, Mauritania, northern Nigeria, southern Somalia, and Sudan, the punishment can be death. While it isn't illegal in Russia anymore, President Putin last summer signed an anti-gay propaganda law. There is much discrimination toward the LGBT community, and some speakers will point that out, that the same kind of hatred that exists in the 1930s and 40s still exists today. The test of any minority, as we know, is how well it treats its minorities. The Third Reich demonstrates how easily a government can devise minority scapegoats. Branding homosexuals as criminals let most Germans feel comfortable looking the other way while the Nazis went about their persecution. I'd like to thank all of those who will be speaking later, and I'd like to introduce them first. The Mayor of San Francisco, Ed Lee. Senator Mark Leno. Assemblymember Tom Ammiano. Assemblymember Phil King. Supervisor David Campos. Supervisor Scott Wiener. The Treasurer of the City and County, Jose Cisneros. Raphael Mandelman from the Community College Trustees. To tell the history of the Pink Triangle, we're honored to have DeLaria, one of the stars of Orange is the New Black. She'll be speaking a little bit later. We're happy to have many Grand Marshals of the parade here. Ross Matthews. I'll be speaking about him more before he speaks. And some of the community Grand Marshals. We have Julius here, who'll be speaking later. Gutierrez. We also have the organizational Grand Marshals representatives, the Trans March. Why don't you come on up? Yay, I'm not sure if any of the other Grand Marshals are here. Maybe the Pride Board, could you raise your hands, Larry and David? Any more Grand Marshals here? Grand Marshals. Oh, I mentioned Melanie. She'll be speaking, giving the history. And we're thrilled once again to have the San Francisco's official band, the Lesbian Gay Freedom Band. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, SF Pride, Toad Hall and Badlands, the Apothecarium, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the Steamworks, House of Starfish, The Castro Lions Club, who paid for all of the t-shirts we're wearing. Lions President Gary Nathan, are you here? Would you raise your hand?
Yes, he is.
There he is. Thank you, Gary. Hodgkins Jewelers. And Starbucks has been providing the coffee and tea. And Starbucks has not only been providing the coffee and tea for over a decade, they also brought over 100 pastries this year, and they brought 25 volunteers. So thank you, Starbucks.
Yeah, their pastries too.
Barefoot and Bubbly for the champagne we'll be toasting with the christening the Pink Triangle with. And PG&E was sending a group of people up as well. And Walmart was sending its first outreach crew as well. So thank you, Walmart, for your volunteers. The San Francisco Police Department, thank you very much for your help this morning. Thank you to Katie Hickox for the Pink Triangle website and for keeping that up. And without the help of my husband, Hossein, and my sister, Colleen, this would certainly never happen. Thank you. Hossein's right in the middle. He had to be different and wear a black Pink Triangle t-shirt. So the history of the Pink Triangle, we start the program off every year, and this year it's going to be in two parts. We're going to hear the history of the Pink Triangle as it took place in the 1930s and 40s, and then we're going to have an update on that and show that the same kind of hatred that existed then still exists today. So to give the history of the Pink Triangle, please welcome Leah DeLaria, not only one of the stars of Orange is the New Black, she's an amazing comedian who I've been used to watch 30 years ago at Valencia Rose. She's an accomplished jazz musician. And tonight, she'll be performing at Feinstein's at the Nico. It's going to be great. Please welcome Leah DeLaria.
Whoa, baby.
Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't expecting a commercial here, so I thank you for that. It's really a pleasure to be back in San Francisco. This is where I got my start almost, I guess it was, Tom, was it 32 years ago? I think it was 32 years ago with Tom Ammiano, who's he's like, don't tell them my age, I'm gay. But I owe Tom a lot and would like to say thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Friends of the Pink Triangle, this is the history of the Pink Triangle. The Pink Triangle was used by the Nazis in concentration camps to identify and shame homosexuals. This symbol, which was used as an attempt to label and shame, has been embraced by the gay community as a symbol of pride. However, in the 1930s and 40s, there was nothing to celebrate concerning the Pink Triangle. Gays were forced to wear the Pink Triangle on their pockets in concentration camps to identify them as homosexual to set them apart from other prisoners. Triangles of various colors were used to identify each of the categories of, quote unquote, undesirables. Yellow for Jews, brown for gypsies, red for political prisoners, green for criminals, purple for Jehovah's Witnesses, blue for immigrants, black for antisocials, and by that they meant lesbians, and pink for homosexuals. The pink triangles were slightly larger than the other colored triangles so that the guards could identify them from a distance. It is said that those who wore the pink triangles were singled out by the guards to receive the harshest treatment. And when the guards were finished with them, some of the other inmates would harm them as well. At the end of the war, when the concentration camps were finally liberated, virtually all of the prisoners were released, except those who wore the pink triangle. Many of those with pink triangles on their pocket were put back in prison, and the nightmare continued. It is the same kind of senseless, irrational hatred that still haunts gays, Jews, blacks, and other minorities today. The Taliban in Afghanistan required non-Muslims to wear identifying badges on their clothing, just as the Nazis required their undesirables to wear identifying logos so long ago. History, as always, repeats itself. That is why the Twin Peaks display is so important. We must remind people of the hatred and prejudice of the past to help educate others and prevent it from happening again. What happened in the Holocaust must not be forgotten. It must never be forgotten. It must never be repeated.
That's right.
Yeah.
You mind standing here?
And I'm going to introduce, a little later. Okay, sure.
Thank you, Leah. That was terrific. She'll be speaking again a little bit later. Now to give the rest of the history of the Pink Triangle, we're thrilled to have Grand Marshal Melanie Nathan here. She's going to tell us what's happening in certain parts of Africa. Melanie is an attorney, mediator, equality activist, and human rights advocate, and founded Private Courts, Inc., a human rights advocacy firm. And she's here to tell us a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here today. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here. All elected officials, it's wonderful to see you all here. A big thank you to Patrick for allowing me to do this, because this is a tremendously important platform. Looking down on this magnificent pink triangle, I'm struck by the anomaly. While on the one hand, we've made enormous strides here in North America, the UK, the EU, Israel, Iceland, 77 countries around the world criminalize homosexuality through draconian penal codes and new anti-homosexuality legislation. When I look down at this, capping our Twin Peaks, there is an obscene and pervasive parallel across the decades that we cannot ignore. 81 years ago, on May 6, 1933, the Nazis ransacked and closed the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin, destroying records and research that impacted homosexuality. And just this year, the Ugandan authorities ransacked Makerere University's HIV Walter Reed project, leading to its closure. In 1934, a special division of the Gestapo was instituted to compile lists of gays and lesbians. In 2012, the Ugandan Minister of Ethics, Simon Lokodo, raided workshops detaining LGBT people and preparing his lists of individuals and organizations. In 1936, Himmler created the Reich Central Office for the combating of homosexuality. In February 2014, President Museveni of Uganda assented to the Anti-Homosexuality Act to combat homosexuality, with prison terms 14 years to life in prison. And the list goes on. Back in the 1930s, this was so-called purifying, and this is how it began in Nazi Germany. And now in 2012, on our watch, we are riding the crest of a wave with similar potential. It all starts with myths and lies and scapegoating serving to underpin the notion of extermination, which means getting rid of, whether that's by so-called curing homosexuality or just letting the general populace attack people by so-called mob justice or even prison. It's all getting rid of homosexuality. After the Ugandan Act was signed, Red Pepper magazine outed 200 of Uganda's top homos, sending hundreds of people hiding. These people were banished, excommunicated, evicted, fired, beaten, threatened with mob justice overnight. Now, I have a question for all of you. Imagine if Anne Frank had access to the internet. Imagine if we, as a Jewish population, invited Anne Frank to San Francisco to attend a Jewish festival. And imagine if the State Department said, no, we're not going to give you a visa to come to the Pink Triangle installation because we're afraid you're not going to go back home. This is what happened this week here at Pride. Our State Department denied the people we had invited from Africa to come march with us in Pride visas to come march with us because they were afraid they would go home to the countries that persecute them. If you speak to the State Department, they will tell you they were following the law, and indeed they were. It is much more complicated than I have time for here. However, I want to assert that the way our asylum and refugee laws work, there is no path here for Anne Frank. There's no path here for our LGBT brothers and sisters in Africa. Only a few of the privileged may trickle in. I look down at the magnificence of this symbol and how we have managed 75 years later to reverse its meaning, to symbolize pride, and with events like this to ensure we will never forget. My mind could easily be tricked into thinking we have won. But for as long as we have hundreds of Anne Franks in dark rooms across Africa, we have not won. We have only just begun. And in quick conclusion, my great-grandfather was turned away at Ellis Island. And it was thanks to a philanthropist that saved my granny Rose, who landed in a Jewish orphanage in South Africa. And that is why I'm standing here today. It was thanks to extraordinary times when people pull out extraordinary measures. As we are going to let the annihilation of Africa's LGBT community happen on our watch? No. This symbol will not allow us to forget. But what good is it if we ignore? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you.
You know, I would just like to give a special thanks to Patrick for what he's done here. I don't know if you realize the extent of this extraordinary platform. And to that end, I'm going to make a special presentation to him. This was donated by the South African Gold Coin Exchange, especially for him. It's an Elie Wiesel medal, and it acknowledges Elie Wiesel and the Nobel Peace Prize that he received. And I just think that this would be very special to give to Patrick for all his efforts. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melanie. That was incredible, and thank you for that incredible gift. What an honor. I'm very, very, very thankful. We're honored to have Mayor Lee of San Francisco here today. He married my husband and I in his office last summer, so we're very thankful for that. Thank you. And last week, he sent 50 goats up onto Twin Peaks to make sure you don't get poison oak. So hopefully nobody has any wild raspberry thorns or poison oak, and we're very happy that it was so easy to install the pink triangle this morning. Please welcome Mayor Lee.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to you and everything that you do for our city. Gosh, it is time to celebrate, but what a wonderful recount, a serious understanding of our history of the pink triangle, what it means, is really the foundation for why we need to celebrate our pride in San Francisco. That historical account should never be forgotten, because you can only celebrate if you know where we're coming from. And in this city of San Francisco, we have a lot to celebrate, but we also have a rich history of struggle for our LGBT community. And it wasn't too long ago that we had riots in this city, we had discrimination, we had barriers that were so thick, no one could see a way forward unless people came together and embraced each other's love for each other and created the freedom in which we enjoy today. I am so proud of the family of elected officials that I get a chance to work with. We're all working very, very hard to make sure not only that we have an LGBT community, but we do all the things necessary to make sure that it grows, that it's protected, that it really makes sure we enjoy the richness of the struggles in the past. This is why I think we celebrated so well when our nation and the U.S. Postal Service created the first Harvey Milk Forever stamp. That really put us together on the national, international map. And there is a lot to celebrate. We're working very hard to make sure housing needs are done. And I, again, want to just acknowledge the the important work that Senator Leno and Assemblyman Ting and Assemblyman Ammiano together with us to make sure that we prevent the wrongful evictions that occur in this city that really do affect the LGBT community and so many other low-income communities. I am also proud that every time there is the unfortunate cuts in HIV and AIDS funding, and we do work so hard with Leader Pelosi to prevent that, but when it happens beyond our control, our city is strong enough to fill those gaps because of the work that not only our office does, but we do together with Supervisor Campos and Supervisor Scott Wiener and others working together to make sure that our board and our mayor are working strong to fill those gaps in. There is so much that we need to do in health. We are already, with President Obama, talking about cures to HIV and AIDS. And as that time comes nearer and nearer, we're doing everything we can to make sure we bridge the gaps and make sure our communities are strong, people live rich lives. There is so much to be proud of here. And I was very happy when Patrick whispered in my ear a couple of weeks ago, can you get the goats up to the hill so that we can have the Pink Triangle flourish in its beauty. We were glad to do that, to make sure that not only the Pink Triangle lives on, that we have the biggest and best Pride Parade that we ever really had, that we will have over 1 million people in this city, and that we continue to educate them, because San Francisco is no longer just a community of LGBT. We have to actually be the example for the rest of the country and the rest of the world, and we will continue doing that. Always be on the cutting edge, exemplifying the beauty of it, because I'll tell you, this city of San Francisco is a great city because of its diversity, because we cannot be a great city unless the talent of all of our communities are unleashed, whether it's the trans community or our gay, lesbian, bisexual community. We have to unleash everybody's talent to be the great city. So I'm proud to celebrate with you. Let's get on with celebration and a whole weekend of celebrating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. I just noticed that we have another dignitary here who will be speaking later. President of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, David Chiu. We're honored to have Senator Mark Leno here. He's spoken at all of our ceremonies, and we're very thankful for that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Patrick, and Hossein, and Colleen, and all of those who have come out today. We want to thank our Freedom Band. Yay! And we want to thank Bloom That and Tyler for bringing up. Who knew there were so many pink flowers in San Francisco? And also to thank all of the volunteers who got up before sunrise to make sure that this triangle was on our Twin Peaks when we arrived today. I never knew how Patrick got everyone up so early, but I found it's a sex party. And Patrick, I think I'm going to show up next year.
These aren't balloons, they're condoms.
But, you know, looking around with all of the pink balloons and the pink flowers and the pink champagne and the marching band and family and friends, you'd think we were celebrating Hello Kitty's birthday. or maybe...
We are.
or maybe Joan Rivers' late-in-life bat mitzvah, but the fact that we are commemorating the torture, abuse, and annihilation of homosexuals in Nazi Europe really speaks a lot to the nature and the strength and the resilience of our LGBT community and family. Who else would take a symbol of derision and mockery and recreate it as an international symbol of pride? That's our community, and that's what we're celebrating this weekend. And no one else does it like we do. So it's a time to celebrate. Of course, it is the 45th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising in Greenwich Village, New York, 1969. But of course, we take great pride also that in fact it didn't start at Stonewall in '69. It started at Compton's Cafeteria here in San Francisco in 1966. So New York ain't got nothing on us. And I reminded folks that when New York's legislature finally passed equal marriage rights at the urging of their Governor Cuomo, it was 6 years after California's legislature led the way. Of course, the difference between New York was their mayor, who demanded that their legislature put such a bill on his desk, a mayor with vision, a mayor with compassion, and a mayor with a place in history, a governor. But of course, our governor didn't even know the meaning of his own marriage vows. But it's a cheap shot. I take it whenever I can. We gave Arnold Schwarzenegger a gift, and he didn't know it at all. But congratulations to our Grand Marshals. Thank you, elected family of San Francisco. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us every year. And Patrick, as I do every year, would be remiss if I did not. Now, Patrick's got his bathroom walls covered with these, but he's now covering his bathroom ceiling. And next year we bring a special one for the 20th anniversary. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you.
I assure you none of those have ever been near a bathroom. And who knew that Tom Ammiano wasn't the only comedian elected official? So speaking of Tom Ammiano, we're going to have a special introduction from one of his colleagues, DeLaria.
How many of you ever seen Tom scared before? Because that was it. Did you hear it? As he said it, Tom went, "Oh no!" Brilliant. I'm going to try really hard not to be an asshole. Because I have to say, back in the very early 80s, when it was gay cancer, it wasn't even AIDS yet, Tom Ammiano and the late, great Ron Lanza got together and wanted to do something special. And it was always, and I've always said this, and I will always say this, if it wasn't for Ron and Tom, there would be no me, there would be no Margaret Gomez. I mean, the list can go on and on and on and on of what came out of the Valencia Rose. And it was created by this gentleman over here. Oh, Tom, I'll never forget it as long as I live. You know, I've always said, once we forget our history, we're doomed as a community. And I've spent a lot of time the last few years bitch slapping what we call the gay community, although I think we're just a bunch of faction off groups that don't trust each other, but bitch slapping them, saying, I'm really tired of you saying negative things about Nellie Queens and Butch Dykes, because if it wasn't for Nellie Queens and Butch Dykes, there wouldn't have been a Stonewall. There wouldn't have been any of it. We must remember our history. And the history of gay comedy to the minute is this gentleman over here. And I have loved him for over 30 years, and I continue to love him to this day. He is a loud mouth. I mean, we're both just a couple of old Italian men. And he is a loudmouth. He does not take shit from anyone. He went to the assembly to make sure that things got done here in San Francisco. He is a bright light of the queer community. He has been shining for a very, very, very long time. He organized the Gay Teachers Union of San Francisco. I mean, that's how far this guy goes back. And it is my honor to bring to the microphone my dear old friend, and I say old many times, who I don't get to see enough, and I was really excited to see that he was here today, which is why I asked, could I please do this? Ladies and gentlemen, the godmother of gay comedy. That's what we called him, Tom Ammiano. I'm sorry, we're a Italians, we're going to start crying, so I'm going to move on. Give it to him, honey.
Well, there you are. It's always an honor to be here, awash in pink, obviously, and putting those condoms to use as balloons. I didn't know about the sex party, but did he have to invite the goats? I mean, really. So, speaking of goats, Sacramento, the town that time forgot, the LGBT community has really done a wonderful job of integrating, and we talk about things that the mayor referred to. If you're talking about immigration policy, LGBT people are there. If you're talking about healthcare, LGBT people are there. If you're talking about housing, we're absolutely there. Housing in San Francisco is kind of like me. It's highly desirable, but there's not enough to go around. And Leah really did evoke a lot of memories. It was a wonderful time in the city because there's this tendency to over-sexualize everything that we do. And at my age, it's kind of funny because getting lucky means I remember where I parked the car. But and we were able to sow the seeds of our culture. We have a fabulous LGBT culture, whether it's in the arts and all kinds of expressions that make this city richer for who we are. And Harvey Milk always said it was very important to connect the dots. And Harvey Milk always looked forward as well. And I mean, who would have thought? I have 3 granddaughters now, beautiful granddaughters. Although the oldest one asked me the other day, "Do we have to see The Wizard of Oz one more time?" Yes. So, this is my last year in the assembly, but I'm going to come home to Oz, and I'm going to really be around and involved, as you know. And someone said to me, "Tom, you're getting up there, don't you want to retire or something?" I said, "Well, I feel like the elderly sex worker." When they said, "How could you keep doing this?" And she said, "It's not the work, it's the stairs." Love you very much.
Bravo. Nothing like a couple of funny Italians in the house. Thank you, Assemblyman Ammiano and Leah DeLaria. I said it once before in an introduction for Tom. All of my dates in the early 80s were to Valencia Rose to see Tom and Leah. And so it's great to have them both here. I have been remiss, I didn't introduce Bloom. That is the person who arranged all of these beautiful flowers. Still here?
Tyler.
Tyler, where are you?
Well,
Tyler.
there he is.
Tyler, could you come up here and take a bow? They brought 1,500 individual flowers, plus they brought a whole army of bouquets and the boutonnieres. So thank you very much for that. So please welcome one of our straight allies in the San Francisco Assembly, Assemblyman Phil Ting.
Depends on the week, Tom. Well, it's always tough to follow Tom Ammiano, so can we give him one last round of applause? Thank you, Tom. It's been just an honor and a pleasure to get to serve with you in the Assembly. This is, one of my favorite events. It really personifies so much of what San Francisco is about. We sit and we have to pay homage to the community that came before us, our history, but we also are, as an incredible city, as a region, just coming together to celebrate. And San Francisco, to me, is this amazing place because so many of us are not from here. Most of us come here because of what this city symbolizes. And what this city symbolizes to me is a place where you could be yourself, you could be part of a community, you could find like-minded people, but in the times that we find disagreement, we always find a way to come together as a city. We always find a way to get things done. And we always find a way, always to make room for the next group of folks that are trying to find their way into San Francisco. And for that, I'm so proud to be one of the representatives in Sacramento and espouse our San Francisco values, to really be there, not talking about only the Chinese community or the LGBT community, but really every single one of our communities that at times needs help or needs assistance or really needs to have a voice. And for that, I just wanted to thank again Patrick and add to the wallpaper collection. We have a certificate from the State Assembly. And just again, thank you for everything that you do every single year and bringing us together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Assemblyman Ting. This is wonderful. Thank you. We're very pleased to have the treasurer of the city and county of San Francisco today, Jose Cisneros.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to honor the work of all the volunteers who put up this incredible symbol. You know, when I think about the incredible weekend we have here every year that we used to celebrate, I want to note, though, that one of the other most important things we do this weekend is we make ourselves and our community visible. And what better way to be visible than a 200-foot tall pink triangle on the highest peak in San Francisco? Congratulations to all of you. All of us you see up here do our best to represent the community and support the community. And personally, I'm proud of the fact that I've been an openly gay Latino elected official for nearly 10 years here in San Francisco. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Treasurer Cisneros. Please welcome the President of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, David Chiu.
Good morning, San Francisco, and good morning to our favorite goats. Of course, I think for all of us, this is not only an incredible event for Pride Weekend, but this is one of my favorite events for our entire year. Let me ask you a question, all of you. How many of you were not born in San Francisco? So whether you're Mark Leno born in New York, whether you be Tom Ammiano and Scott Wiener from New Jersey, or Ed Lee from Seattle, or Jose and I from Boston, or David Campos and Phil Ting from Los Angeles, this is a city, we are a beacon to the rest of the world when it comes to our progressive values, our tolerance, our diversity. And the idea that today we have a symbol behind us that is a beacon to the rest of the world for who we are, a symbol that used to stand for hate and for intolerance and for death, and the fact that we have turned that around, this is just an incredible day, an incredible moment as it is every single year, and I am just honored and delighted to be part of it. So again, I want to thank Patrick for your leadership, and let's go celebrate with the goats and the flowers. Happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you, Supervisor Chiu. Please welcome Supervisor David Campos.
All right. Thank you. No one can really top the comedy of Tom Ammiano, so I'm not even going to try. So I want to just make a couple of points. This is a very special day for me. As a kid who was born in Guatemala, I think about all of the queer kids who are still in Guatemala who cannot be who they are. And there are so many countries where that is the case. And it is true that we in this country and in this region and here in the Bay Area, we have come very far. But we haven't come far enough. As much as the LGBT community has accomplished, there are still most members of our community in this country that don't have the rights that we enjoy in San Francisco. And within the state of California, there are still so many that do not enjoy those rights. But even here in the Bay Area, and very soon we're going to hear from a young woman who I'll tell you that meeting her today was one of the most amazing experiences for me. Because just like Anne Frank talked about what happened in the Holocaust and reminded and gave the world a glimpse of what people went through, it's amazing that once again it takes a young woman to talk about how we still need some ways to go. And that is Julius Gutierrez, who you're going to hear from. In the Bay Area, in this day and age, a trans woman who goes to school, high school, was bullied and targeted. And what happened is that instead of going after the people that were bullying her and abusing her, you had the local district attorney that when she tried to defend herself, they filed charges, criminal charges against her. This is happening in 2013, 2014 in the Bay Area. So the fact that she's here tells us that we still have a ways to go, but there is something so incredible and so amazing about this community that there are always people who, notwithstanding their age, they're not afraid to speak up and be who they are. So Julie's, on behalf of all of the queer boys and girls who are still struggling with who they are and having a tough time being who they are, even in this Bay Area, thank you so much. I am honored to be in your presence. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you, everyone, for letting me be here today. And not everybody knows my story, so I'm going to give it a brief speech. I was bullied in a very conservative county, not like this county that supports me right here. I was bullied by students. The students will call me anger. You know the word anger. They would call me a faggot. They would call me gay. They would say, why is he dressing like that? They wouldn't use gender pronouns. And it was very hard for me because I'm the only transgender in that school. And I mean, in the video, you see like a clip of it, and that's not even like half of what happened. The teachers were calling me him, and he was not even using, the right derogative term to confront me. And I went to the principal multiple times saying, hey, I'm getting bullied, I'm getting harassed by all these people and all these students and everyone. And she goes, well, for every student that is in the classroom, the school gets money. And I'm like sitting there like, okay, so she's focused on everybody being in the classroom who gets money, like, because they get money for every single student. So if a student was to be absent in the classroom, they wouldn't get any money. So then she goes, sorry that this is happening to you, and she writes me a pass, go back to class. So I'm going back to class, and this girl, so we have seat arrangement, and she goes, I don't want you effing sitting here. This is in your effing seat. And she has gum in her mouth, and she spits it in her hand and throws it in my face. From there, I was like, oh my gosh. Because I know the principal isn't going to do anything. I went to her already. And the vice principal just had a talk with her just the next day. And I could talk forever about this. But, I mean, being here right now, standing in front of you, is a great honor because I would still be in the court system because the district attorney has filed charges against me, and now it's dropped. Because if it wasn't for wasn't for the LGBTQ community backing me up, having my shoulder, having my support, I wouldn't be here today as your Grand Marshal. Because it's a blessing. It's like an honor to me. I'm gratefully humbled. Oh, wow, it's like a trophy. It's words cannot explain of what I'm feeling right now. It's like a trophy with not even having one. And I have to thank everybody for letting me be here.
Thank you. Amazing, Julius. You're how old, 16?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and believe me, you deserve those thousands and thousands of votes you got to be Grand Marshal. Please welcome Supervisor Scott Wiener.
Thank you. That was amazing, and thank you for fighting, because that's what we need. We all need to fight as a community and make sure that never happens. Being an out LGBT elected official, you know that you have enormous responsibilities on your shoulders in terms of really making sure that our community's interests are protected and that we're able to move forward as a community. And I know that, and I think I will speak for Supervisor Campos as well, that it is so absolutely humbling to be in the presence of Tom Ammiano and Mark Leno, two true heroes in our community and people who have really just been trailblazers in terms of defining what it means to be an effective out LGBT elected official. So let's hear it for Tom and for Mark. And we work very hard every day to make sure that we are continuing to move forward as a community. We're working very hard to try to address the very unique needs of our LGBT seniors, a population that we have not been doing enough to support for our out kids, for our young people who are struggling in the city, especially around housing and job training, and really making sure and working with Mayor Lee and with David Chiu and with our colleagues on the Board of Supervisors to make sure that this city never, ever retreats from our commitment to people living with HIV and people at risk for this disease, and that we make sure we keep fighting until this epidemic is over. So it's pride, it's a time to celebrate, but also to remember how much work we have left to do. So happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. We're very honored to have one of the celebrity Grand Marshals here today. Ross Matthews is the host of TV's Hello Ross, and he's also a best-selling author. He's been a regular on Chelsea Lately, and he got his start on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno as the intern, and we're thrilled that he's here today. Please welcome Scott Matthews. Ross Matthews, I'm so sorry. Too many Scott.
Hi,
Thank you, Ross.
of course.
Hello!
I wasn't even supposed to be here today, but I heard Leah say Nellie Queen and just came running. I'm so thrilled to be here. You know, we talk about the history of the Pink Triangle and reclaiming it, and it's so inspiring. And San Francisco doesn't just reclaim it, you put it on a mountain, right? You put the B in subtle, honey. You know how to do. I grew up in a little farm town in Washington State, and I didn't know.
So did I.
Honey, so did you? Girl, it's my time. No, I'm kidding. Call me Scott again, huh? Okay. No, I grew up in a little farm town in Washington State called Mount Vernon. I watched a lot of TV, probably way too much TV. And one thing I always wanted to see, and I never did, was something that I could point at and say, when I grow up, I can be like that. I can be a happy, grown-up, openly gay, successful person. But that was not portrayed. Remember the landscape all those years ago? And that's one of the things that's driven me as I've worked for the past 13 years in television, is to provide that kind of example for kids around the country, around the world, to be able to point and say, if he can do that, I can do that. And by being named one of the Grand Marshals for this Pride. Makes me feel like it's working, and you noticed. And thank you so much. And I'm wilting in this wind, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Happy Pride. Enjoy it, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross Matthews. That was great. Now we're to the christening of the Pink Triangle. So while the dignitaries are shaking up, including Ross, come over here. You got to christen the Pink Triangle.